Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday. Hey, baby, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great. How are you?
Doing good. There was an election yesterday, and look at this. The world has not ended. So even though half the country may be upset, we're going to get through this just fine. And that's all we're going to talk about the election. Coming up here in a bit, we've got a guest. I'm going to be visiting with Peter Ames Carlin, and he's got a book called Homeward Bound. It's about Paul Simon, and I'm actually excited to flip through this book. It looks pretty cool. I got a copy of it. It's a gigantic, huge book. So listen to this. The National Eye Institute says half of all Americans have some sort of vision problem. I'm over here, Heidi.
I know I have vision problems. I have to wear glasses and contacts, so I know I have problems.
So over half of Americans. The Institute analyzed data from the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey on 12,000 peeps, and they said people aged 20 and older are the ones that have the biggest issues. More than 33% were nearsighted, 36% had astigmatism, and another 3.6% were farsighted. So there you go. Coming up, I'm not too farsighted. I'm not too nearsighted. It's just right-sighted. We're going to tell you what's going on today, and that's on the way.
John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
I thought you'd never ask. It's Wednesday. It's November the 9th. It's Kristallnacht.
It's what?
Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht. What is Kristallnacht?
I have no idea.
I don't know what that is either. Now I'm going to have to find out. I'll have to Google that and check it out. Today is World Freedom Day today as well. And we got, World Freedom. That would be a nice thing to have freedom all over the world.
It would.
But, it's probably not quite the case.
We don't even have it here anymore.
No. Oh, come on now. Yeah, we do too. So World Freedom Day, Kristallnacht, and that's it. Nothing else on the list. So I don't know how I'm going to celebrate either of those. I will celebrate freely, though, I can tell you that. Coming up, we have something about women talking more than men. We'll see how many times Heidi disagrees with me on that in a bit.
John and Heidi.
Would you like to lose weight? You could wait till New Year's to make a resolution, but most people that do that are done with them in a few weeks. No, they don't hit their goal. They just give up. If you struggle to keep your weight where you'd like it, maybe you should consider hypnosis. Many people have amazing results with hypnosis, and it's not as expensive as you think. We have a special weight loss hypnosis program for just $60 at radiosavings.com. Hypnosis can help reduce the cravings that cause you to overeat. Learn more about this special hypnosis weight loss system from Extreme Power Hypnosis at radiosavings.com.
John and Heidi.
You know it's true because you heard it on the radio. Women talk more than men. What do you think, Heidi?
Not in our house.
Yeah, that's probably
Not in our house.
Probably
Especially
pretty
when
accurate.
Troy lived at home. Between you and Troy,
Oh, I know.
Taylor and I never get to speak at
Well,
all.
here's the thing I noticed, because our son is turning 20 here in just a few weeks. Isn't that crazy? Anyway, he's living on his own now. He's like all grown up and left us. I had lunch with him yesterday, and it was really fun. And he and I talked the entire time, and there was no room at all in the conversation for another person to wiggle anything in there. We got, that was like an hour and a half, but we had like 5 hours worth of conversation. But it says here that, there are times when men complain about women talking too much. Well, there's a biological explanation, boys. The reason women are chattier than men, again, according to this, scientists have discovered that women possess higher levels of a language protein in their brain, which could explain why females are so talkative. Previous research has shown that women talk almost 3 times as much as men.
That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard.
In our family, I got that protein, apparently. In fact, the average woman notches up 20,000 words a day. That's about 13,000 more than the average man. See, I'm just above average, that's all. In addition, women generally speak more quickly and devote more brain power to speaking. Yet, before now, researchers have not been able to biologically explain why this is the case. Now they can. New findings show a certain protein could be the culprit. So,
There you
I
go.
don't know what it is that gives you that protein in your brain, ladies, but whatever it is, I get that protein too. And I get a high dose of it. So I'm not sure what it's from. Sunlight? I don't know. Coffee? Maybe. Coming up in a bit, we've got some coffee.
Not sunlight. You never leave the studio.
Yeah,
so
that's
I
true.
doubt that's
Certainly not exercise. I know that. Coming up, I'm going to grab some coffee, but we're also going to talk about Where's the Beef? Remember that campaign?
Oh, yeah, I
We're
love
gonna
that.
Oh, well, that's not really what we're talking about, but it's an interesting story. And this deal here where women talk 3 times more than men, you know it's true because...
You heard it on the radio.
See, listen how talkative she is.
John and Heidi.
The John and Heidi Show is brought to you in part by the Keystone Treatment Center.
This is your brain, and this is your brain on drugs. We share silly stories here on the program, but addiction is no joke. If you or someone you know suffers with an addiction to drugs or alcohol, make today the day you seek help.
Call toll-free 844-204-1055.
That's a toll-free number. Again,
844-204-1055.
Where's the Beef? Remember that campaign?
Yes.
That's what we're going to talk about here. Oh, by the way, this is your brain on drugs. I forgot to start it the right way. Well, there's maybe instead of Where's the Beef, maybe it could be Where's the Marijuana? I don't know. This happened in Los Lunas, New Mexico at a BK. They've gone to pot. 2 police officers were eating their burgers and something tasted funny, and there was marijuana on their burgers. Green leafy substance was not lettuce, it was marijuana. Officials say that the officers began acting odd after eating these sandwiches. 3 BK employees were arrested and charged with possession of marijuana and aggravated battery on an officer, which is a felony. So
good.
Yeah, why would you have done that? That just doesn't even make sense. You think you can get away with that?
There's a lot of aggression towards officers
gotta
lately,
stop that.
and it's not okay.
Give
it
the
is
officer
not
a
okay.
hug, not a drug. Just saying.
Oh my god!
All right, coming up, we got what? You don't like that?
Oh.
I'm making T-shirts when we get off the air. I'll only make one. I'll make it in my size.
Such a dork.
I know. Coming up, we have your moment of duh. That's on the way.
John and Heidi.
Now your moment of duh. This is for a Frenchy Frenchman, Heidi.
Okay.
A little Frenchy Frenchman. He's only 18. He's a youngster. And a French court has handed him a 3-month suspended jail sentence to a teenager who named his home Wi-Fi network ISIS. Teen's lawyer, yeah. The teen's lawyer told the judge it was a stupid act by a young man of just 18 who can't explain why he did it. Although that probably was a British accent more so than a French one. So just pretend that was in French.
You just have to throw in a
Oui, oui. For all of you French listeners, I apologize.
My son would say, Sacre bleu.
Also, for all of the British listeners, I also apologize. And for just all listeners, I apologize. So he named his Wi-Fi network ISIS, and he got a 3-month suspended jail sentence. So I'm not
That
exactly...
seems a bit extreme for a...
You can name your Wi-Fi thing whatever you want.
Right.
I saw like a whole list of them, somebody in their apartment complex.
unless his emails
Yeah.
contained something dangerous, he was just kidding.
He was being
a
silly,
stupid
but
kid.
yeah, so that's why we gave it the moment of duh. Your scoop of the day is on the way.
The Scoop of the Day is brought to you by Wells Blue Bunny. If you want delicious ice cream, be sure to look for the Blue Bunny. Sure to have your favorite flavors. Learn more at bluebunny.com.
Now your scoop of the day. We're going to see how much of this we can get through because I got a ton of stuff. A new report says Americans spend over a year of our lives surfing channels, flipping from channel to channel, over a year of our lives doing that.
I don't.
I probably spend 2 years of my life. After the Chicago Cubs won the World Series, somebody posted a bag of air on eBay saying that it was pulled up from the 2016 World Series Cub Championship. The bidding got up to $6 before eBay said, no, we're not letting you sell a bag of air. So they popped it. Air gone. Hey, 20-year-old from the Netherlands set a new Rubik's Cube World Championship. Guess how long it takes him to do a Rubik's Cube?
How long?
4.74 seconds.
That's insane.
It is. And if you'd like to see the insanity, you can check it out on our Facebook page. I got video. Facebook.com/John and Heidi Show. A new Yale study says some skin cancer survivors still like to tan. Does that surprise you?
Not at all.
Doesn't surprise me either because some lung cancer survivors also
Still
like to smoke. So
Yep.
It doesn't shock me at all. It doesn't. I understand logistically, and if you use common sense, you go, well, you got skin cancer. Maybe you should quit doing that. But it doesn't shock me. Your cell phone may be harming your hearing, Heidi.
Not mine.
You're supposed to say, huh? Authors and researcher, author of the study, Naresh Panda, MD. Her last name is Panda. That's pretty cool. Dr. Panda. That's awesome.
All right.
It sounds like a restaurant. I don't know. Anyway, she led a study of 100 cell phone users, and the results show that 4 years of heavy cell phone use, like an hour a day.
That would be you.
Oh, it's even more than that.
Yeah.
Diminish the user's ability to hear high frequencies. That's me too. Yeah. Making it hard for them to distinguish between certain sounds. That's why the doorbell rings and I answer my phone. I'm like, hello? Turn on the TV and I go to the front door. Somebody here? What's going on?
See, I really don't use my phone for that. I use my phone for texting and playing Candy Crush, and that's about it.
Then you text me, and what do?
And then you call me.
I call you back. I'm like, what did you need?
And I'm like, don't call me. I sent you a text for a reason.
Yeah, don't do that. A man in Oklahoma faces charges of stealing a police car, and then the case gets pretty solid because he went Facebook Live while doing it. Yeah.
Oh.
At one point, the alleged cop car thief searched for the switch for the cruiser's flashing lights and says, "It is what it is. I just can't help it." He eventually was arrested at his home.
He took it home.
Yeah. Not smart. If you want to earn more money, you might want to start taking a critical look at what happens when you stand on the bathroom scale. Men, you might need to gain some weight. Women, you might need to lose some weight. Highest paid employees are heavy men and thin women. That's a word from the University of Florida study on 2,000 German and American workers. I'm smiling because I don't think this is right. They say American workers who weighed 25 pounds more than the group of the norm make $14,000 less for the ladies. Well, women who weigh 25 pounds less than the group make $16,000 more. Men who are considered thin make $9,000 less than their colleagues. And their paychecks... doesn't say how much they make. Oh, I guess that's just if they weigh less, they make $9,000 less. Anyway, there you go. That was the study that I should have pre-read ahead of time, and maybe I could have motored through it a little bit better. So they're saying that I'm... No.
They're saying 25 pounds.
So you're... But
they're
I'm
saying...
going to add that up, because 25 times what? 4 or 5? I should be making like an extra $1,000 a day.
I don't think that's the way it works.
Go ahead and pop my fantasy balloon that I have going on here. Hey, a recent study finds that after breaking wind while in flight, they're saying that's actually healthy and recommended. A report from a Danish gastroenterologist, Jason Rosenberg, said he got the idea for the study after dealing with flatulence from passengers during a flight from Copenhagen to Tokyo. And he's like, yeah, it's actually good for you, and I encourage it. Meanwhile, he's no longer welcome on the airplane.
So why is it okay for humans to do it, but we're supposed to get rid of all cattle because they're causing problems to the...
Apparently, cow farts are worse than human farts. I don't know. Coming up, we got a guest. Going to be chatting about that. Some fun facts and a lot of fun stuff all on the way on a Wednesday edition of the John and Heidi Show. We just wrapped up one of the most contentious elections in the history of our nation. Some are excited about the outcome, others not so excited. We want to remind you that we're still one nation, under God, indivisible. We've made it through many things, and we'll make it through this too. Let's do it together. At PoliticalStorm.com, we've been covering this election from both sides, and we want to thank the many contributors that have helped make that possible. We also invite you to become a contributor too with a free blog. Let's share all of the reasons to come together and unify as a nation. Share your voice at PoliticalStorm.com. John
and Heidi.
Thank you for listening to the John and Heidi Show. Joining us right now, we have veteran rock biographer and best-selling author Peter Ames Carlin. Peter, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you on the program. I've got this book in front of me here, Homeward Bound, The Life of Paul Simon. Fantastic job on the book, sir.
Oh, thank you very much.
And this is something that took you a little while to do, and you talked to a lot of people to get all the different stories that are in here, didn't you?
Yeah, it was about a 3.5 year project, and I spoke to probably more than 100 people from everywhere from Paul's childhood up through people on his recent, album and tour. So it's pretty much a spanning a piece of work.
Over the past 60 years, the life of Paul Simon, very first hit, and I didn't realize how far back it was, but you in the book I learned that it's from 1957. Holy cow.
Yeah, well, he and Artie Garfunkel met when they were school kids, and they started singing together when they were 11, and soon started writing songs and trying to figure out how how to follow the great doo-wop singers and groups that they had loved so much. Then the Everly Brothers and of course Elvis Presley. And the first song they came up with, they wrote together. It wasn't the first song they came up with, but the first really good one was this tune called "Hey Schoolgirl" that had those Everly harmonies and a little bit of Little Richard in. And they managed to get someone interested in putting it out, and they recorded it in the fall of their senior year in high school, and it came out like 3 weeks later, and then 2 weeks after that, it was a hit on the charts.
That is awesome. Now, most people who know Paul Simon know him either from Simon and Garfunkel, like you had just mentioned, or from his solo career. But starting out, Simon and Garfunkel, they kind of shaped the sound of the 60s, really.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, they had this very pop sound in the 50s, and they sang as, then they called themselves Tom and Jerry, but then they both went off to college and separate schools and separately got interested in folk music, which was sort of the up-and-coming kind of intellectual music of the day. When Bob Dylan showed up in 1961, the sound of his first record and then the second record, which had so many of his compositions on it, I think completely swiveled Paul's head. And between that influence and then just every other kind of pop music that was sort of exploding in the early 60s, and particularly the Beatles, came up with a sound that was very sort of unique, a combination of folk and rock and roll and a little bit of that early psychedelia. So they became really one of the top 3 or 4 bands that sort of led the scene in the 60s.
And then as you look at the 70s, we had Paul Simon on his own with Kodachrome and several other huge hits that, again, certainly didn't just go home and take a nap during the 70s, did he?
Oh, no, he was busy constantly. And in fact, he's been busy working on music pretty much full-time since 1957. Really, he's never taken a break. He spent those years when he was in college working alone as Jerry Landis. That was his name in the Tom and Jerry thing, and he only finished using that name in early 1963 when he began moving toward folk music. And in the 70s, it was the same thing. It took him a year or two, and then he put out his first solo record in 1972. The second one came in 1973, and then his third solo, and then there was a live album from his first solo tour. And then, and then a year after that, he had Still Crazy After All These Years, which was, again, another phenomenal blockbuster record. And after that, he wrote a movie for a few years, and then starred in it, and wrote and recorded the soundtrack to the album, and that was called One Trick Pony. So throughout the 70s, he was working, it seems like, more than overtime.
And then when you get to the 80s, what a way to kick off the 80s. A huge 500,000 people concert in New York Central Park. To this day, one of the most loved concerts that's ever happened in Central Park. And the numbers speak for themselves. They had a nice turnout for that one.
Yeah, it was a sort of a really big kind of cultural moment because the thing to remember is that it took place in September of 1981, which was less than a year after John Lennon had been shot on the streets of New York, just within a couple blocks of where the stage for the Central Park show was. And this idea of these still fresh-faced sort of heroes from the 60s who could still sing and perform as beautifully as ever before, reuniting, I think, was a very comforting thought to a bunch of, baby boom fans who were at that point either in their mid-30s or moving very quickly toward, the age of 40. The idea that you could go home, you could go back to those days of optimism and innocence, and Paul, and there was the reunited Simon and Garfunkel to prove it. And they stuck together, touring at least for a couple of years, and tried to make a reunion record, which sort of blew up in their faces. Before Paul again took a very short break and then started working on his solo Graceland album.
Again, visiting right now with Peter Ames Carlin. He is the author. I was going to say the biographer, but I guess we could say both because it's true. Veteran rock biographer of Homeward Bound: The Life of Paul Simon. Now, Paul Simon is 75 years young today, and he's got 15 Grammy Awards, 100 million records that he's sold, and this is the very first book of its kind. So I think this is a book that's going to do really, really well, sir.
Oh, thank you. I hope so myself.
Now, where can I go if I'd like to get a copy? I have mine here. Thank you guys for sending it. I absolutely love this, so thanks for sending it over. But folks that want to buy a copy of this, where can they go to find one?
Well, it's available at all your favorite online booksellers and your bookstore around the corner, too. So Amazon, IndieBound, Powell's Books, Barnes & Noble, and again, any brick-and-mortar bookstore you should happen upon. So it's really out there and eager to go home with you.
Now, when you were putting this book together, this is kind of on the heels of doing a similar book, a fantastic Bruce Springsteen biography. Of the two, while you were working on this and while you're working on that, was one of them harder to do, or would you say they were both about the same? Well,
everything's a challenge. In some ways, the Paul Simon book felt a little more difficult to me. I really wanted to focus, not only on the research and digging up everything I could, but the Springsteen book was sort of a big burden because I got so much help from Bruce and worked so closely with his family and his management and the people in the band. I felt like, again, that was a story that really hadn't been told, at least not in the way that I wanted to tell it. So I felt like a large sort of responsibility to do a good job of it. But, every book is sort of its own thing, and you kind of have to struggle with it and wrestle it to the ground before you can really figure out what it's going to be.
Well, I thought maybe after, standing on a stack of best-selling titles over here for the Bruce Springsteen, I didn't know if that would make it easier to do that second book or if it made it a little harder, actually. So
yeah, well, Philip Roth, the great novelist, always said that when he'd have trouble with a book later in his career, and people would say, "But you've written so many books before," and he'd say, "Yes, but I have not written this book."
There you go.
So each one, they're like kids, each pose their own challenges and delight.
Again, our guest today has been Peter Ames Carlin. Mr. Carlin, thank you so much for taking time to chat with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And the book is called Homeward Bound, The Life of Paul Simon. It's available right now. Thank you so much for listening to The John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Are you ready for Duel? Kyle Dowling on guitar, Brett Gunderson on bass, Sam DeVito on drums, and frontman Duel Shane.
Gotta keep rocking, gotta keep sucking, bringing it down like rain.
Duel's new single just hit iTunes and it's selling fast. Get your copy now.
When you're lacking chains and you feel no pain, Supernova gonna get you too.
Their first single, Supernova, is available now for less than $1. Learn more and find a direct link to buy Supernova at facebook.com/DuelRocks.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The only place where the flag flies all day, never goes up, never comes down, never flies half-mast, never gets changed at all. Yeah, is the moon. Doesn't even get saluted. The moon. We should salute the moon every once in a while just to salute the flag we have up there. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The vocabulary of the average U.S. adult consists of about 5,000 to 6,000 words.
Really?
Our son probably doubles that.
Oh, I'm sure.
We'll be talking and
he uses words I've never even heard.
He'll just drop something into a sentence. I remember one day it was like, "Quit being so sardonic." I'm like, "What?" "You're being sardonic." I'm like, "I don't even know what that is."
Who uses that word?
It's like, well, it's like kind of like sarcastic. I'm like, just say sarcastic. Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Women shoplift more than men. We've talked about that.
We have.
4-1, by the way.
Because men want big screens and turkeys, and women want makeup and and jewelry.
America's first minimum wage in 1938 was how much, Heidi?
I don't know.
Wrong. 25 cents. 25 cents an hour is what it was. And our final fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
Chase and Sanborn coffee was the first coffee to be sold in sealed tins in the United States. Guess what year?
What year?
1879.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have to ask Charlie if he remembers that. Hey, just kidding. Coming up, we've got some more fun stuff on a Wednesday edition of the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
This is the world's first and only 7-time lottery game grand prize winner. Since I endorsed Lottolicious, I have won something every single draw. When you join, you'll be giving them the set of numbers that you want them to play, and that's what they will play for you. You don't have to worry about running to the store to buy your tickets. They take care of all that. So if you're looking for the best way to play the lottery, go to RadioLottoPool.com and join today. Again, that's RadioLottoPool.com.
Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday. When the alarm clock goes off, do you just spring out of bed? Or do you like fumble to hit the snooze alarm?
I don't use an alarm clock.
No, you don't. I wake you up 8 times. So I am your snooze alarm, pretty much. Well, it says here, some fumble to hit the snooze alarm, some hit it more than once. Turns out we should all hit, we shouldn't hit it at all. There we go. Those few extra minutes of precious sleep could make you tired all day. Why? When you hit the snooze alarm and fall back to sleep, it actually fools your body into thinking it can really sleep more. 7 minutes is not enough, though. When your alarm goes off again, your body is confused, very confused, and you'll pay for that all day long. This according to research done by freelance writer, Rhodes Scholar as well, Casey N. Sepp. She calls the snooze button the root of all evil. She says it is one of the most deliberate ways we sabotage our own lives, and it's the enemy of both good sleep and productive wakefulness. The
but who
takeaway
actually falls back asleep in that 7 minutes?
I don't.
I mean, you just lay there, right?
The takeaway is this. Get up when the alarm goes off, no matter how tempting it is to hit the snooze alarm, and you're going to feel better all day. Here's a good trick for you. For those of you who are stuck hitting snooze, this is what I used to do. When we got married, I don't think I did this when we got married because I think it drove you nuts, but I used to always have my alarm clock across the room. So I couldn't just reach over and hit snooze. I had to literally get up and walk over there. And then it's like, well, I'm not going to get back into bed now. So if that's something that maybe you need to consider, put it out of reach so it's a little more inconvenient. It really does work. And it sucks if you have another person there because, you know, I remember when we very first got married and I moved in and you're over like jabbing me going, can you please go over and turn that off?
Yeah, because... I mean, it's not doing any good if you just let it beep for 7 minutes. It's the same thing. You're just disturbing everybody else in the room.
Well, I'm saying, but I had to get up after you jabbed me a few times.
Eventually to
smack me, try to smother me with a pillow. And eventually I woke up and just sprung out of bed. Just mainly to get away so she wouldn't kill me. All right. Coming up, we're going to talk about teenagers texting. It's all on the way. When is the last time you changed the air filter on your furnace? Now, don't be embarrassed. That happens to a bunch of us. The furnace filter should be changed often. This will help your heating and cooling system run more efficiently, and it'll even extend the life of your system. Now, there's an easy way to make it happen. Filter Easy, a new subscription service that delivers your size filter right to your door on the schedule you choose. It's easy. Filter Easy. One less thing to worry about. Learn about a special offer available now at radiosavings.com.
John and Heidi.
Teenagers are prolific texters, Heidi. But there's evidence that they're even doing it in their sleep. It's called sleep texting. Have you heard of this? The phone will beep, they'll answer the text, and according to Elizabeth Dowdle, nursing professor at Villanova University, they'll respond with words or gibberish. The thing happens, it says the thing that happens, though, is that when they wake up, there's no memory of it. Teens should get 8 to 9 to 10 hours of sleep each night. That's not even close. How many?
8 to 9 to 10 for a teenager?
Yeah, I'm supposed to get 8, 9, or 10 hours of sleep. I don't think that's even close to what we get. We're not teenagers, but we have a daughter.
We're not teenagers.
We have a daughter that's a teenager, and she's not getting that either. It says overplugged and overextended teens and young adults tend to get less than that, and that's what interrupts a good night's sleep because they'll get like a little chime from a text, and they'll actually answer this. The solution is technology-free bedroom, or at least put the phone on the other side of the room or turn off the ringer. Hey, that goes right along with what I said earlier about using an alarm clock on the other side of the room. So if you have an alarm on your phone, put it across the room.
We have said many times
plug it in over there and
that
charge
she
it up.
Needs to just charge her phone in the kitchen overnight.
See?
But she
Problem
doesn't
solved.
listen.
Oh, yeah.
Because she's a teenager.
Oh, that's right. Well, there's a study for that, too, I'm sure. Coming up, we're going to talk about bees. It's the bee's knees, and it's on the way.
John and Heidi.
A couple of years ago, I watched a documentary that Jerry Seinfeld put out about bees. It's called The Bee Movie. Remember that?
I do remember that.
Was that a documentary?
I didn't care for it.
You didn't? I actually liked it. I don't think it was really a documentary. But
no,
it was,
of course it wasn't a documentary.
I was being silly.
It was a cartoon.
It was a cartoon. It was about bees. And bees are on the endangered species list. 7 different types that are found in abundance in Hawaii became the first bees to be added to the list of endangered and threatened species. The report comes from the U.S. Wildlife Manager saying a listing decision classifies 7 varieties of yellow-faced or masked bees as endangered due to factors like habitat loss, wildfires, and the invasion of non-native plants and insects. The bees, so named for yellow to white facial markings, once crowded Hawaii and Maui, but recent surveys found their populations have plunged. So Hawaiian bees are not necessarily as plentiful as they used to be.
That's a shame.
That is a shame. That bee movie taught me that without bees, we wouldn't have all the beautiful flowers for the Rose Bowl parade. So, I mean, they need to pollinate stuff.
I believe we would all die without bees.
I don't know how it works. All I know is we better take care of the bees. Coming up here in a bit, we got some good news. Oh, we got something else to get to. This kind of good news. That's on the way.
John and Heidi.
We just wrapped up one of the most contentious elections in the history of our nation. Some are excited about the outcome, others not so excited. We want to remind you that we're still one nation, under God, indivisible. We've made it through many things, and we'll make it through this too. Let's do it together. At PoliticalStorm.com, we've been covering this election from both sides, and we want to thank the many contributors that have helped make that possible. We also invite you to become a contributor too with a free blog. Let's share all of the reasons to come together and unify as a nation. Share your voice at PoliticalStorm.com.
John and Heidi.
We got some good news on the way, and I got this. This is kind of good news. It's interesting news. I'm not going to tell you what your kids should or shouldn't do, but there is a new study to take into consideration regarding the rules that you make for your children. Heidi, you should listen to this.
Okay.
Apparently, it's more important than ever to monitor your children's movie selections. In a study of nearly 3,600 middle school-aged children, Dartmouth researchers found those who were allowed in middle school to watch R-rated movies were far more likely to start drinking alcohol at an earlier age.
Why are you looking at me?
Yeah. What did you watch with your dad as a kid? We've watched several movies that you said, I used to watch this with my dad. I'm like, you watched this when you were a kid? And you're like, oh yeah, we had HBO. We watched it all the time. It was on all the time. And I had to do the knob alert. Dad, knob alert. Remember this?
Yeah, I had to call him when there were...
Nudity. He put his daughter in charge of that when she was like 7. So
I turned out fine.
yeah, sure you did.
I am a ton of fun.
Yeah, I never said it's not about fun. Anyway, the kids were questioned.
But I did start drinking.
I know. That's why I said this is a study that I think really should sink in deeply. Kids were questioned at the outset of the study and then followed up 2 years later. Only 3% of the tweens who were restricted from watching R-rated movies had ever started drinking alcohol, compared with 19% of those who were allowed to watch R-rated movies and 25% of those who were always allowed, and they started drinking. The conclusion from Dr. James Sargent says, we think seeing the adult content changes their personality, makes them grow up a little sooner is what happens, Heidi.
Oh.
So you were an adult sooner, so you're going to be...
And I wasn't like 7 when I was on knob alert. I was like 10.
Oh, well. I hate to misrepresent.
There's a big difference.
Huge difference. Wow. For a moment there, I almost thought it sounded like it was a bad idea. The good news is, Heidi, we have some good news on the way. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
Always try to wrap this up with good news, and I actually have some news that I think is really good news for some people.
Okay.
People who have kidney stones. Have you ever had a kidney stone?
I have not, fortunately.
I have not either.
I understand they're very painful.
Knocking on wood over here, because aren't you supposed to do that to prevent things from happening or whatever? I don't know what that means. I just heard other people do it, and I wanted to sound cool.
Okay. Yeah, that sounded awesome.
Did it sound cool?
That really did.
Well, a study conducted at Disney World, they found that riding roller coasters may help you pass kidney stones with far less pain and no need for surgery.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
2 out of 3 goofy characters recommended it, apparently. I don't know. This doesn't seem like a real thing. Researchers from Michigan State University carried out their study by riding the park's Big Thunder Mountain Railroad coaster with a model of a kidney that contained 3 stones. According to the result, the kidney stones passed about 70% of the time. So I wonder if they've tried this on real people.
I wonder what made them think we should totally try this on a roller coaster and see if that helps. I wonder where that idea came from.
I think it was just a kid that was going to school there that said, I want to go to Disney World, and I think this is a way to get the school to pay for it. He's a smart kid, or she. Like, hey, you know what? I got this idea. You want to be in my group? Let's tell them we're going there. No, seriously, stay on track here. We're going there to make sure that kidney stones pass on roller coasters. We're going to get to ride all day long.
That's interesting.
I think that's what happened. I think it's good news, though, because I know people who have had kidney stones.
They're very painful
And that's
hear.
what I understand as well. Like I said, I've never had one, thank goodness. But if you ever have a kidney stone, they're saying, go to Disney World, ride the roller coaster.
I do need to drink more water, though, because I believe that kind of helps.
Does that help, too?
Keep them from forming, doesn't it?
I have no idea. As much as you might think I sound like a doctor on this radio program, like I almost pronounced a medicine right once, came real close. Pretty sure I am not a doctor. Just want to make sure you know that. All right. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show on a Wednesday.